This is a little bit longer lesson though, because awesome Hey, it's Brian with Crash Course Camera again, and I want to talk to you about some simple location choosing tips. This is going to be a little bit longer lesson because great locations are everywhere and I want to help you be able to find them. What makes a location a good place to shoot usually comes down to what kind of subject you're shooting and what story you're trying to tell with a photo. If you're shooting landscapes, for example, you kind of can't get your shot without being there, wherever there is. And if you're shooting people or models, you might look for a spot that tells a better story by finding interesting things around said model to complement elements of the look and style of that day, or blocks of color that could be awesome as a background. But sometimes photogs get so hung up on locations, you'll forget to look around you in your own homes or your yards or your neighborhood for easy ways to make even the ugliest or most mundane scene something usable or even awesome as a shooting location. And that means you sometimes end up not shooting anything at all, right? And that sort of sucks. So here are a couple of quick tips to help keep you going. Tip number 1, set your camera to aperture priority. In fact, I'm going to be talking quite a lot about aperture priority in other videos too. It gives you just one more tool that can help you make things look great right now without having to dive into full manual just yet. On Canon, aperture priority is the AV setting, and on Nikon, it's the A. Tip number 2, use the lowest aperture number that your lens can manage, and that might be f3.5, f2.8, or f1.2. But the point is that the lower the number, the more you can blur out your backgrounds with an effect called bokeh and make ugly backgrounds pretty. And the more you can make your backgrounds pretty by blurring them, the more that all of those spots around you that you wouldn't normally ever consider photographable become viable locations to shoot. Check this out. This is a lovely model, and the background is also nice in this photo. It's ethereal, it's a little blown out, it looks nice, right? But when I show you the same view of only the background where I shot her, you can see it's in a side yard stacked with ugly yard tool handles, bags of sand, an old cooler, some pool chairs out of place, some ratty looking plants, things that if everything were in focus would be pretty unphotogenic for this situation. But because in this case I knew my tools, I was really only looking for a background that had some big blocks of color that could be far enough away from her that it would blur into just blobs of color. So that proves that you too can pull off a pretty shot in a terrible location. Remember, the lower your aperture number, the more background blur you can get. And that's because the farther you zoom in on a zoom lens, or the physically closer you get to your subject, and the farther the background is away from your subject at the same time, the more that background gets blurry, and the more ugly locations can become nice locations. So the only question you really need to answer for your own photography is, when does the background matter and when does it not? You get to choose when the important shots are, where it super matters, and you can choose the other times when maybe something a little bit more blurry might make more sense. How can you use the tools you have to your advantage to get great looking shots every time regardless? At least this is one way how. And a quick side note that on cheaper lenses, your aperture will annoyingly change as you zoom in. You might have noticed that actually on a kit lens. It's really irritating. So if you have one of those lenses, the way around it for practice is to just stay zoomed all the way out to keep your aperture number smaller. Usually on those lenses it's f3.5, and get closer with your feet. So now I want you to go grab your camera and get out there and go try it. Keep your aperture number low, your subject close to the camera, and your background far away. That's it. And if you want to keep getting better at your photography, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It's the red subscribe button below. And then go to Facebook and join the Crash Course Camera Facebook group, where you can share and post your practice photos, because you're going to get a ton of feedback for free in real time with all the other folks just like you. Cool? Rock on.
Remind me I'm still alive.